This is a Six News podcast. This is NEWSWIRE with Austin Pollock.
Welcome everybody to the NEWSWIRE episode 5 here on 6 News. I'm Austin Pollock. Great to be with you. Happy Saturday. We are recording a little bit later this week. We had some troubles with getting guests, but never fear, we'll be back again on Wednesday next week. Don't you worry about that, with some amazing guests that we have lined up for over the coming episodes. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in. It's great to be back with you again. You're not missing out. We didn't miss an episode. We're always going to be here. We're just a little later. We thought we'd come out to surprise you on your Saturday. But we have a fantastic show for you. We're going to cap off the breaking news from the United States with our US correspondent Wyatt Sharp with the word that Trump will meet with Putin sometime next week. This is a massive, massive milestone in the war between Russia and Ukraine. Wyatt Sharp, our North American correspondent from 6 News, will give us all the details. Also this week, there was a massive strike in Brisbane. Teachers walking off the job, thousands of high school students forced out of school. We're going to have the latest from our reporter, Levi Knights. This is the NEWSWIRE, episode 5. Let's get into it.
You're listening to NEWSWIRE with Austin Pollock.
North American correspondent, regular guest, and friend of the show, Wyatt Sharp, is joining us from Canada. Hello to you, Wyatt.
Hello, how's it going?
Very good, mate. Very good. We'll jump straight into it. We have that breaking news coming out of the United States this morning. Trump saying he's going to meet with Vladimir Putin in Alaska next week. It could be a potential peace deal to end this war with Ukraine. What do we know?
Yeah, it's really interesting because, of course, Donald Trump during the last election campaign had campaigned on being able to put an end to the war between Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours. That was something that he had said repeatedly over the course of the election, and really in many respects was a core reason for why so many of his supporters actually supported him. People were beginning to feel more and more frustrated about kind of the overall state of geopolitical tensions, and especially the fact that the United States in many ways was being brought into this conflict as well. So when Donald Trump had come out and said he was looking to put an end to the conflict, that he was going to be able to do it very quickly, people in the United States who ended up voting for the president were obviously very much in support of that. Now, Donald Trump has had a really hard time in recent weeks and recent months with not being able to deliver on some of his campaign promises, one of which, of course, being this issue. And so he has come out, he posted a Truth Social post now, what is a few weeks ago, saying that he's extremely frustrated with Vladimir Putin because he's not willing to come to the negotiating table. But he's also, of course, had a very public feud with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, of course, when Zelensky came to the Oval Office and they were going back and forth. And you know, there was even some reporters who had asked Volodymyr Zelensky why he doesn't wear a suit. So there was little small gimmicky things. Yeah. But then there was also Donald Trump who called him out for, as Trump said, not being grateful for the support that the United States is giving to Ukraine. And so Vladimir Putin, rather, coming to Alaska is interesting just because it's really the first time, at least publicly, that we've seen kind of a willingness to negotiate to actually put an end to this conflict. So maybe Donald Trump might be able to get back a little bit of that respect that he's lost from some of his supporters for, again, failing to deliver on this specific promise.
Yeah, and in case you have forgotten, our listeners, we will play a bit of that Zelensky-Trump exchange from earlier in the year. It wasn't that tense. Let's hear a bit of it now.
This happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
A lot of questions. Let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel. We're going to feel very good.
You will feel influence.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
And that was Trump and Zelensky in the Oval Office. Wyatt, that was such a tense exchange. I'm sure you remember it pretty well. What do you think? Do you think Trump might have a bit of a favoritism towards Vladimir Putin at all? Like, could we see this play into how he negotiates?
I don't necessarily think he has like a favoritism towards Vladimir Putin. I think he's actually been quite against a number of the leaders and heads of state who are involved in these types of conflicts. I definitely would think it's fair to say that he's definitely less pro Vladimir Zelensky than a number of the other people. Certainly, not as I don't think they have as strong of a relationship, anyways, as someone like Joe Biden would have had with him,
Yeah,
for
I was gonna say,
example, right?
yeah.
And so I think like. Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation now comes down to, is it actually a good thing to not have a good relationship with Vladimir Putin? Because yes, he's a dictator. Yes, he's, leads an authoritarian government. But, in order to put an end to the conflict, you're going to need to talk through it a little bit. Of course, his demands are irrational. And of course, talking about Vladimir Putin and, Donald Trump shouldn't cave in necessarily to what Vladimir Putin is looking to do.
Yep.
But I just think that if you're not talking to the aggressor at all, then it's going to be hard to, make them stop.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting situation next Friday, the 15th of August, when that meeting takes place in Alaska, as you say. Moving on now to the other big story over in North America. You've got really two big stories, don't you? That's all that's going on over there. But no, I'm kidding. But the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump's involvement, potential involvement, and what we're seeing is just crazy. We know the Clintons, they've been subpoenaed to give evidence. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, so of course, Donald Trump also, another one of his campaign promises was that he was going to declassify files relating to Jeffrey Epstein. He was going to declassify files relating to Martin Luther King, to JFK. I mean, all of these really controversial and just kind of, secretive, if you will, assassinations that have happened
Yeah.
in US political history. And so, again, another core reason for why Donald Trump supporters voted for him was that they were likely hoping they were going to get some transparency over these files. Now, talking to some people behind the scenes and trying to get an understanding of what's happened here, Donald Trump had called a bunch of conservative influencers to the White House really within his first couple weeks of being president. And at the time, they didn't even know that they were getting called there. I think you'll probably remember the shot, or your viewers will remember, where all of these conservative influencers, Liz Wheeler, Rogan Hanley, like they all came out and they were holding up these binders out front of the West Wing of the Epstein files. And in hindsight, they looked really foolish doing that because the files didn't even end up having anything in them. But that was because when they got to the White House, they were pulled aside into a little room and they said, "Hey, by the way, Pam Bondi, these are the files that I, as the Attorney General, am giving to you." And she told them there's really not much in these files, but expect more to come. And that was in addition to Pam Bondi, who had come out and who had said, the client list is on my desk. And then, of course, she came out and said, actually, there is no client list. And so it's been back and forth, back and forth. And people, I was actually at a conference at the Turning Point event. I was covering it, and there was a number of like the who's who of Republican politics at that conference. Megyn Kelly, Charlie Kirk, Pete Hegseth, Kristi Noem, Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, all of the people who are, really high up in kind of the MAGA Republican world. And of course, in Donald Trump's circle, what he values most is loyalty. And so that's why you don't see a lot of those really high level Republicans often coming out and criticizing him. But it's been a very much kind of a different story over the Epstein files. I mean, you had Megyn Kelly and Charlie Kirk on stage at that event. They both came out and they had said, Dan Bongino, who is the deputy FBI director, who he had come out and said, if the president doesn't fire Pam Bondi, then I'm going to step down, essentially. Yeah. And you had a number of Republicans saying, well, we would prefer Dan Bongino over Pam Bondi. And so that's kind of just a sign that people are frustrated over this and they're willing to speak out about it more than they perhaps would be about other issues.
Yeah, and on the ground, would you say a lot of staunch Republican voters are trying to stick more with not the person being Donald Trump, but more with the party's values?
I mean, the thing about the Turning Point event is it's kind of like the whole backing behind Turning Point is like an effort to kind of mobilize people to go and vote for Trump. At least that's what it's been in kind of the last few years. So people there, like, of course, they're still super strong Trump supporters, at least I would say basically all of them. I mean, there's not many people who go there who are like the Mitt Romney, George Bush style Republicans. These are people who are very much populist, who are very much ingrained in kind of the mega style way of doing politics.
Yeah.
But again, that said, that doesn't mean that they don't think for themselves. Like a lot of these people, who I had thought previously, because I think with MAGA, like a lot of what you see is people who are just like unwilling to deviate from the position again because they fear retribution and they fear that Donald Trump will come out and that they'll criticize him. And that's why you don't see a lot of them doing that until at least after they no longer have a position with the administration or with the White House, or, once the hopes of them getting a position are gone. But in terms of just, everyday supporters of the president, there was a lot of them at the Turning Point event. And those were the people as well who were starting to speak out against him. And I think a lot of that is because people, like you or I are just so ingrained in kind of the media atmosphere, and we only hear what like the people who are closest to the president are saying. And unfortunately, we don't always get to hear kind of what the average, everyday kind of majority, middle of the road Americans are thinking. And so it was a nice kind of picture that people who, even those who support the president, still are having a number of concerns and fears about what could be coming, and not even just on the Epstein files. I mean, I talked to people about tariffs. I talked to people about a number of issues, and every single one of them had at least some concerns with, how the administration was going. So again, I think, dividing it up into, people who work for the president, people who hope to get a job in the administration, and then just kind of the MAGA everyday Republican supporters.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Wyatt, thanks a lot for your time, mate. We'll let you go there now. It's a lot's going on, and I'm sure, no doubt, we'll be speaking to you again in our next episode, especially once we know more about this upcoming meeting between the United States and Russia. Wyatt Sharp, North American correspondent. Thanks very much.
Sounds good. Thank you.
You're listening to Newswire with Austin Pollock.
Well, this week, 30 rallies were held across Queensland after more than 50,000 union members voted to strike for the first time since 2009. That's right, thousands of Queensland teachers went on strike, with over 600,000 school students affected, primarily high school students, with members of the Queensland Teachers Union holding placards as they marched along the streets of Brisbane towards State Parliament, demanding better pay and conditions after government negotiations broke down. We sent our reporter Levi Knight along. He filed this report.
50,000 Queensland state school teachers walked off the job this week, with 4,000 of them marching to State Parliament protesting for better conditions and pay. It marks the largest teacher protest in Queensland and the first in 16 years. The Queensland Teachers Union says workload, workplace violence and department support need to improve in state education, saying the past two offers are unacceptable. Education Minister John Paul Lambrook saying he remains at the table to finalise an agreement in good faith. The QTU not ruling out further strike action if negotiations don't improve. In Brisbane, Levi Knight, 6 News.
There we go. That is it for episode 5 of the Newswire here on 6 News. Hey, we've made it to 5 episodes. How good is that? I think that deserves a bit of a round of applause from our totally live studio audience. Let's click it. How do I play it? Oh, there we go. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Episode 5. How good. Thank you. We have a bit of a... Oh yes, how good is that? People are losing their minds that we made it to 5 episodes. But no, thank you everyone for tuning in for 5 episodes, and we can't wait to be back with you. Sorry for the late upload on this one. We can't wait to be back with you for next week's episodes, and we have a lot of great guests lined up for the coming episodes. So do make sure you stick around. And hey, before we go, we'll turn this music off because Maroon 5, they're releasing a new album for the first time in many, many years. This is their 8th studio album. And it's coming out. Well, it's coming out on the same day that Trump and Putin are meeting in Alaska. So how about that? But it sounds like a fantastic new album. They're featuring Blackpink's Lisa and Lil Wayne as well. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Maroon 5. And we're going to play them out. They're going to play us out, I should say, for episode 5 of the Newswire. We'll be back with you next Wednesday, I'm pretty sure, for episode 6. I'm Austin Pollock. Thank you so much for your company. Stay safe and stay informed. Goodbye. And I'll sing if you guys aren't careful. Get ready. It's not over tonight. Just give me one more chance to make it right.
is a 6 News podcast.